Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself. I'm Zdena Kralova from the Konstantin the Philosopher University in Nitra, Slovakia, and I would like to present a paper for the World Congress on Special Needs Education titled Non-Native Teachers' Foreign Language Speaking Anxiety, a Post-Communist Country's Paradox. Since researchers have already recognized affective factors as equally relevant in learning as cognitive factors, one of the most examined affective variables in the field of foreign language learning was foreign language anxiety. Most studies concluded that speaking is the skill most affected by foreign language anxiety, and one of its most immediate determinants is the concern over foreign language pronunciation. Pronunciation is seen as the most salient aspect of the language ego and difficult to acquire in a new language. Nearly all interventions attempting to reduce foreign language anxiety have been learner-oriented and relied on teachers to implement anxiety-relieving practices in their classrooms. Elaine Horwitz was the first researcher to propose that non-native teachers and student teachers may experience feelings of anxiety as well. Foreign language teachers are supposed to be perfect foreign language speakers, and much of their anxiety stems from the inherent threat to their self-concept of competence. Higher-level foreign language competence can be best achieved by intensive communication with foreign language native speakers or a longer stay in a foreign language country. Though practice in teaching foreign languages appears to be a viable strategy to reduce foreign language anxiety, some kind of post-communist country's paradox has to be mentioned in this context. More experienced Slovak teachers of English often experience higher speaking anxiety due to the socio-political factors influencing their learning of English in the years of communism. The lack of communication in the authentic English language and limited opportunities to stay in an English-speaking country during the years of totalitarian regime caused higher communication inhibitions among Slovak teachers of English and some other Western languages. The Velvet or Gentle Revolution was a non-violent transition of power in Czechoslovakia in 1989. The result was the end of 41 years of communist rule and the conversion to the parliamentary democratic republic. Czechoslovakia has undergone many subsequent political, social, economic, and other changes. Within the educational system, one of the most striking changes was the start of massive teaching and learning of Western languages, especially English, as the study of the so-called capitalist languages was more or less restricted till 1989. Within the above-mentioned facts, the following research questions and hypotheses were formulated. The main objectives were to find out whether there is any correlation between the English pronunciation anxiety, English pronunciation quality, and the age of Slovak in-service English teachers, and to identify their anxiety sources and coping strategies. 100 Slovak in-service teachers of English were divided into 4 age groups by stratified random sampling. The age groups were defined according to the socio-political circumstances of English language teaching and learning within the Slovak context. This is a mixed method study as we applied both the qualitative and quantitative research methods. The background questionnaire was prepared to obtain the participants' relevant demographic data, age, gender, time, and duration of English language study, type of English language study, quantity and quality of communication with English native speakers, and a stay in English-speaking countries. The English pronunciation anxiety scale was used to examine the participants' English pronunciation anxiety level. The scale included 20 declarative statements to gather their perceptions of English pronunciation and required them to indicate the extent to which they agree or disagree with the statements. In order to examine their English pronunciation proficiency, 3 British native speakers of English conducted a subjective auditory evaluation of the participants' English pronunciation using a 5-point scale. The interviews were conducted with 25 highest anxiety participants to find out their self-perceived sources of pronunciation anxiety and their coping strategies. The age group 1 members were born after the Velvet Revolution in 1989, and most of them started learning English in kindergartens, which means during their critical age for learning foreign languages. Later on, they had unlimited opportunities to travel and stay abroad to meet English native speakers or watch and listen to English mass media. Most of the age group 2 teachers started learning English at primary schools after 6 years of age, and the age group 3 teachers usually started learning English at secondary schools after 14-15 years of age, or at the universities after 18 years. The age group 4 participants had restricted contact with English culture and native speakers, and not many of them could study English within the Slovak educational system. Most of them completed their English language study within continuing education during their in-service teaching. However, after 1989, they often had other personal or economic limits to travel to or stay in English-speaking countries for a long time. The highest scores in the anxiety scale were obtained in the age group 4 and the lowest scores in the age group 1. A pronunciation quality rating was obtained from each native speaker for each participant. The lowest scores in pronunciation test were obtained in the age group 4 and the highest scores in the age group 2. As Table 3 shows, strong positive correlation was found between the age and pronunciation anxiety, a strong negative correlation between the age and pronunciation quality. Negative correlation of moderate strength was detected between pronunciation anxiety and quality. Figures 1 and 2 compare their mutual relationship with the participants' age. The interviews revealed that the primary source of teachers' anxiety is their self-perceived inadequate and non-native-like English pronunciation and their self-perceived importance of good pronunciation for English teachers. The high anxious participants consider intensive and frequent communication in English, ideally with a native speaker, the best anxiety-reducing strategy. They would also appreciate some kind of psychological training to eliminate their inhibitions to speak in English. The research data indicated that the sociolingual aspects of learning English cannot be ignored. The lack of opportunities to travel to and stay in English-speaking countries and to communicate with English native speakers were reported as the strongest drawbacks and reasons of inadequate pronunciation quality by the Slovak teachers. In the interviews, most of the teachers reported strong speaking anxiety and indicated inadequate English pronunciation as the strongest barrier in speaking. They were afraid of being ridiculed and not accepted as an authority by their students. The highest level of anxiety was detected in the group of teachers who didn't have adequate learning opportunities in their young years, and the lowest level was reported by the teachers who were born after the regime change and thus had an unrestricted access to the English language and culture from the very beginning. The most critical age of Slovak teachers of English today is over 50 years of age. Many of them lack motivation to study and improve their English pronunciation, although they sense it as unsatisfactory. As a result, their most frequent coping strategy is the avoidance behavior. They try to avoid spontaneous and continuous speaking activities in their classrooms, which is rather harmful and in fact impossible in modern teaching of foreign languages. All three research hypotheses were proved, which means that the older teachers are, the more they suffer from pronunciation anxiety. There is a negative correlation between their age and pronunciation quality, and the higher is their anxiety, the lower is their pronunciation quality. However, this relationship is not perfectly linear. Most Slovak teachers of English intuitively assume that the most effective remedies in relieving their English pronunciation anxiety take two forms: behavioral, like more intensive English pronunciation practice, and affective, something which would reduce our psychological inhibitions to speak English. Modern trends in teaching foreign languages emphasize an affective aspect of learning to counterbalance the cognitive aspect, and many researchers have already acknowledged the need of anxiety coping training for foreign language learners as a supplement to language skills training. Future research may want to verify the issue in other countries with similar socio-political and historical background. In spite of the study's limitations, it is hoped that another small step has been taken towards a greater understanding of special needs of non-native foreign language learners. Thank you for your attention.